Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Swarthmore Borough Council's legislative session. This is Monday, March 10th, 2025, and it's, I think, still 7 o'clock. We'll start with roll call. Ms. McCahill? Here. Ms. McLeod? Here. Mr. Therian?
Here.
Ms. Garland? Here. Mr. Boonen?
Here.
Mayor Spiegel?
Here.
Manager Webb?
Here.
Solicitor Scott?
Here.
And Ms. Seymour is absent tonight. Let's start with public comment. Please come up, speak into the mic. Come on up, Robert. Say your name, your address, and please be mindful of the 3-minute time limit.
Yes, pastry dance. Hi, my name is Robert Smythe. I live at 207 Cornell, and as you just heard, I'm also the owner of Pastry Pants Bakery. I'm here tonight. I understand that the agenda has changed a little bit, so parking will not be addressed tonight, but what I want to talk about addresses both parking and some other stuff that I hope I can shed some light on, and the committee, when it starts talking about it, and other board members might bring into it as well, which is this. COVID was officially announced over in 2003, May 5th, by the World Health Organization, and a week later, the United States adopted that as well. So in May, it will be 2 years since the end of COVID. The parklets in Swarthmore were started in response to the beginning of COVID, and yet here we are 2 years after the end, and the parklets still continue. Now you're wondering why I'm talking about that, because I have a parklet in front of my place. And as Borough Manager Webb pointed out in a meeting with merchants last week, I think it's 7 parklets in existence. None of us have paid for them yet. And here we are in March, and no one has paid for them, which kind of sounds like there's a certain apathy about them. So when we're talking about the new parking plan losing 11 spaces, we should really be realistic and say, no, the new parking plan perhaps eliminates 3 spaces, because the parklets currently in use take up 8, maybe 9 spaces. It's hard to tell. The point of the parklets is over. There is no reason for a certain number of privileged merchants in Swarthmore to continue to have this $300 deal to get extra space on the street when no other merchant gets that. Shipbottom Brewery has to rent garden space to accomplish the same thing that we get from a parklet. I encourage the Borough Council to actively engage with the question of the parklets and why they still exist. My feeling is that people continue to think, oh, the parklets are great because they represent the Swarthmore I want to believe I live in. It's a walkable community, and I like to sit and I like to have whatever. But the reality is, more or less 5 days out of the week, nobody is sitting in them. Nobody sits in them during the winter. When the hot summer comes, nobody's sitting there either. They are an impediment to further growth of the merchants in Swarthmore, because these two things don't have to happen simultaneously. But if we were to lose the parklets and gain all of those parking spaces, it would benefit every merchant in Swarthmore instead of just a handful of privileged few. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to come up and make public comment? Yes, Virginia.
Virginia Thompson, 430 Rutgers. I didn't realize that parking is no longer on the agenda. I saw it's on the agenda, so I'm not sure what's going on, but just wanted to make sure that the study that was done or is being done incorporates a comparison of parallel parking and back-in angle parking. My husband came to the Public Safety Committee last month, I think it was, and talked about that, and he understands that the study was going to look at both options, because back-in angle parking would most likely result in the same number of parking slots that we have now. Thank you.
Thank you. Others for public comment? Please.
Hi, I'm Peter Slutmacher from Marietta. Actually, I have a question. Do you know when that Finance Committee meeting from the 27th, when those minutes?
We did not meet.
We did not meet.
Oh, not only did I miss the meeting, I missed that. Okay. Thank you. and easy.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, we will close the public comment section of the meeting. All right, housekeeping, let's consider approval of the minutes from February 10th and March 3rd. Starting with February 10th, does anyone have any changes? Well, can I have a motion for approval first?
So moved.
Second. Anyone have any changes they'd like to make, suggestions? And how about the March 3rd, same thing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I was gonna take them as the same motion, but we'll do them as separate motions. Okay, all in favor of approval of the March 10th, 2025 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all in favor of approving the March 3rd, 2020, it says 2024, but I think we mean 2025. Minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, both minutes are approved. Thank you. Let's move on to committees. Environment, David.
Well, first, happy spring to everybody. Important to the environment, and it's baseball season, so go Phils. Just reminding people about upcoming events. March 13th, Andrew Budding is giving a presentation at the PAC on resilient tree species. On March 15th, we have our third in the Free the Trees ivy removal event down at the Swarthmore Town Woods next to Cades. Little Crum Creek cleanup on March 29th. Umoja Park native planting April 25th at 3:30. There's the free tree swap at Darby, Saturday, May 3rd from 10 to noon. That's when you remove an invasive tree, you can get it replaced by a non-invasive tree. And again, another Free the Trees event in the Swarthmore Swim Club on May 17th. And the weather's supposed to be real nice this Sunday, Saturday. Saturday the 15th. So come out, be there, help us rid of the trees. Upcoming meetings, as normally scheduled, EAC on Tuesday the 25th at 7:30, Environment Committee on Wednesday, March 26th at 7 p.m., and the Tree Committee on Thursday, March 27th at 7 p.m., possibly discussing revisions to our tree ordinances. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you very much, David. Finance, Cindy.
I am still learning, but I think everything is looking good. You have the data in front of you that Bill gave us. We are spending 16.5% of what we had planned. Revenues are slightly behind that. I think that's a timing thing from what I understand. No concern. We actually are spending a little bit less than we did last year this time. We have a cash balance as of 2/28/25 of $1,004,296. The beginning balance was $1,108,217. So I'd like to, are there any questions on that? I'd like to move to pay the invoices of $406,763.34.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Also like to move to ratify wire transfers of $6,370.20.
Second.
Any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. What else you got?
We will have a finance committee meeting March 24 at 5 p.m. right here.
All right. Cindy, thank you for taking on Finance Committee. It's not the easiest committee.
Well, it's very interesting to see how money comes in, money goes out, repays, and it's,
with a lot of help from my friends.
What it takes. Okay, thank you. General Government, Jana.
Yeah, thank you. We didn't have an official meeting this month, but we did come together as a committee to discuss General Government Committee's key priorities over the course of the next year. I know we're a little bit behind, but Cindy joined our fun little group here, so welcome, Cindy. So a couple of priorities that the three of us would like to bring to this group. Number one, should come as no surprise, we want to continue to engage with our various organization and group constituents. So we aim to connect and meet with each of these groups throughout the course of the year just to understand what their scope of work is over the next, well now, 9 months. Our goal would be to meet with them before the budget requests get sent out and then get sent back to us, so that we can just essentially better understand what their priorities and needs are before they're even requesting money from us. I think kind of understanding those types of items is important, and it'll allow us to make a little bit more of an informed decision and align our budgetary considerations with the community's most pressing concerns. Number two would be to establish, and actually check, we've done this, establish a collaborative merchant working group. And we actually did, I think I mentioned this at last meeting, that we were having a working group on the first Wednesday of every month, myself and manager Bill Webb. And this was in response to last month's roundtable discussion about how just opening communication doors was important between, and not only, but among Swarthmore Town Center, the merchants of Swarthmore, the borough manager, the Main Street subject matter experts that we now have at our disposal thanks to the Historic Preservation Task Force, as well as several other constituent groups and residents. And we're hoping that this partnership among these groups continues to foster collaboration and ensure that we're collectively working together and that we're all kind of going for the same goal, which is to grow our business and cultural landscape. Were you going to say something?
No, I was
Okay.
going to say
Okay.
thanks.
Number three would be, actually to Robert's point, I don't know if he's still here, but to evaluate and plan for town parklets. So I think this comes at a good time to say that we are not, I think the word was being apathetic. Well, I'm certainly not being apathetic to the parklets. I think that I come from a constituency here in town where maybe they're not used 7 days a week, but I do know that many of my resident friends do enjoy those parklets, as well as the children, since I have a middle schooler who loves Bernato's pizza. So I'm willing to work and to kind of understand some of the concerns that Robert and others have mentioned, but to come up with a plan for the future for our parklets. And two more things. Support the Myers Avenue redevelopment. As folks know, there was the Public Realm project, and out of that Public Realm project, their first priority was to redevelop and revitalize Myers Avenue, and really hope to create signage and wayfinding to let people know that there is quite a bit of parking behind our main corridors, and to beautify that area so that it doesn't feel like it's like kind of like behind the scenes. In addition, Scarlett mentioned, as she's the chairperson of Planning and Zoning, that in addition to the Myers Avenue redevelopment support and oversight, we also need to be aware of the ADA renovation to the SEPTA train station. I actually wasn't aware of how big of a project that was going to be, and that certainly needs to be considered when we're thinking about Myers Avenue, since it's pretty significant. And finally, in addition to that Myers Avenue redevelopment, and they are including signage and wayfinding back on Myers, but something that came out of our last merchant group meeting was just general signage in the town, particularly when you're coming into the town from the traffic circle. I've noticed that there's some very old, and I think they're like relics of signs that don't even make sense, like Station Square. Maybe that was before my time. Okay. It says this way to Station Square. I don't even know what Station Square is. So we're hoping to work with Centennial Foundation, the folks that are doing the Public Realm project, and particularly Myers Avenue, to understand what their signage goals are, and maybe try to push up and prioritize like just assign to our business district and get that off the ground as soon as we can. And then finally, encourage fundraising initiatives. We want to build off the success of the recent library's fundraiser, which I went to, and it was quite a success and really fun. So we want to work with other community groups to encourage to host similar events and kind of get them to put, not that they aren't, but put some skin in the game so that we can help them and they can help themselves, and also create activities and events that are important and benefit our broader community. Any questions on our initiatives? I feel like I rattled off quite a litany of things, but.
Thanks to you and your committee for putting that together.
And then finally, we aren't meeting this month. We did have, as I mentioned, we did have our merchant roundtable discussion last week, which went well. It's definitely, feel free to let me know if I need to take minutes. We're not intending to take minutes, but it is open to the public.
I'm sorry, what's the meeting?
It's a merchant roundtable discussion that we're
It's not a standing committee.
No.
Okay.
And then finally, on my general government agenda is a consideration to appoint one resident to the HRC. As folks know, we did have a vacancy as of last month, and we did get an application for Ashwani Ahmad, which I sent to both of you their resume, and so I'd like to appoint that person to the HRC. Geotry spoke with the person and feels like it would be a good fit.
Second.
Anyone want to ask any questions about this person?
Can you tell us something about the person? We didn't, I didn't see a bio.
I can pass that around. Of course, my computer is frozen. Let me come back to that unless my fellow council committee members can open this.
When did you send it?
The 7th. We didn't get her resume until last week.
Don't have it.
I sent it, but I can resend it.
Did you send it to everybody or just to a couple?
Just to my committee members.
Okay.
Jana, does it jam them up if we don't make the appointment this cycle?
I was hoping to make the appointment, but I can pass this around to everybody so that they can review it. This was the only candidate that came forward.
Your call. Ashwini has a corporate background
Thank you.
in cyber data and AI, and so I would imagine that her interest in the HRC around issues of employment discrimination and housing discrimination is likely more of a personal interest than a professional interest, and there's nothing wrong with that in my view. It looks like she relocated to Swarthmore from California at some point, and I don't know her personally, but I know that we make the practice of giving people the benefit of the doubt and are trying to get new folks in when we can. So that's what I can share.
She did, thank you for refreshing my memory, she did recently move here, and her goal was to get involved in some sort of organization, and she expressed interest in HRC because of, again, her personal beliefs and interests. She also expressed some interest in STC, but after speaking with Geotry, who is the co-lead at HRC, after speaking with her, she was someone that she really wanted to bring onto HRC.
I'm ready to second the nomination.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I don't
so
know.
we have a motion, a second, we've gotten some information, sounds like a great candidate.
In the future, should we be passing this to everybody?
I think so, yeah, it makes this
We're just
easier.
going to bill, we can put it in the packet for the meetings.
So I can tell you this lady had applied, but she had sent an email of interest last year when we had advertised the openings. And at that time, we only had one seat available, which was Geotry's seat. So we reappointed her to her seat. So when Jennifer Smith recently moved out of town, that created the vacancy. So it was we did advertise this in the Swarthmore in accordance with how we do things, and still she was the only one with interest.
All in favor of appointing Ashwani, what's her last name? Ahmad to the HRC, say aye. Aye. Great, welcome to you, and we hope you enjoy the and working with the HRC. Anything else for general government?
Did you say we are meeting this month?
We are not.
We're not.
Anything else?
Was that darn? Did you say darn?
No.
Oh, I was like, did you have something else? Okay. Did you want to be, Cindy? Did you? I didn't have anything on my
I thought
agenda.
we might talk about parklets, but.
Can we hold on that? Because I want to get some more information before.
Why don't you guys have this conversation?
Thank you.
You know, and then you can let Bill know, but let him know soon.
He knows what I'm waiting for. Yeah,
Okay.
he's aware.
But if you're gonna have a meeting, it sounds like you're not gonna have a meeting.
We're not gonna.
Okay, and then you guys will talk and sort it out, whatever.
Thank
it
you.
is. Okay, thank you. Public safety, I'm sorry, planning and zoning, Scarlett.
That's me. Hi, everyone. Okay, so last week we did some good work coming out of this committee. So for anyone who's looking for information about Cunningham Field renovation proposal, the 6:30 Yale zoning hearing, or the comprehensive planning process, kindly see the YouTube recording from last week, so we don't go through all that again. But two updates for tonight. One update of note since last week's meeting, council council held an executive session at the end of last week's work session meeting in private. And the purpose of that meeting was to discuss the possibility of the borough making an offer to purchase 630 Yale Avenue. And the borough does not plan to make such an offer at this time. So that's really just a point of information sharing to bring the community along. And then additionally, which we did discuss in the public portion of the meeting last week, while the borough may not rezone one property only, we may create an overlay district that creates another set of directions for an area smaller than any given residential zone, so in this case, residential zone B. So as we discussed last week, the borough has requested of Solicitor Scott to draft the terms of an overlay district, and that would be to encourage mixed uses and gentle density residential provisions along Yale Ave corridor with a tentative boundary of Rutgers Avenue to Chester Road on Yale Avenue, clipping the corner residential properties on the north side of Yale, excluding the northwest and northeast most residential property. So if that's enough for people to hold in their minds. So the game plan is for Planning and Zoning Committee to review that draft text prepared by Bob. That'll be at our March 20th meeting. And colleagues on the Planning Commission are aware and contributing to firming up mixed use and residential gentle density provisions. They've already started thinking about that in an informal, complimentary way. And I'll aim to report back on that topic at next month's full council meeting after that work in committee. So anything else for that topic for tonight? David, what's cooking?
Just one other thing that
Please.
Bob Scott had also suggested that another strategy would be to allow conditional uses to continue with a lower effect on the community, and he was going also to draft language.
Thanks for that, David. That's right. So really, Bob, we'll be a go for the March 20th meeting to really look at these two separate matters, which council could adopt one or the other or both.
They did send you an outline.
So I just saw. I said, oh boy, homework begins. So anything else on that topic for tonight?
I had one question.
Shoot.
The issue of mixed use, is there a reason that we need to look at an overlay?
It's all discretionary, it's all
If
legislative.
the objective is to keep residential areas residential and to encourage residential building instead of commercial, why are we adding the possibility of mixed use in an area that's only going to potentially encourage commercial development?
Sure.
I just don't see why we're doing that in a residential area.
So I think there are two two answers that I'm aware of, and I'm interested in your take if you want to start helping shape the deliberation of this group. The first is, we don't have to do that. We could say residential only and not expand the permitted, the by right, conditional, or special exception permissions for commercial activities. So that's kind of response number one. Response number two is a reason to allow some commercial use could be to make redevelopment more financially plausible. If we thought that there was more likelihood to get the residential gentle density that we think we would want by including a commercial use or commercial permission as well, then that could be a reason to complement our primary goal. And actually, here's a David Boone for you. A third response potentially is when we talk about the future and kind of best practice in zoning like this one, the contemporary practice is more about form-based zoning, what the actual bricks and sticks of the building and how much space the building takes up on the parcel, with less emphasis on whether it's used for a commercial purpose or a residential purpose. So I don't know if any of those responses hold water for you, but I would say, does that, as I look around, okay. I think those are the reasons why it's framed to us as a decision point worth talking through.
Yeah, I would strongly suggest that council consider the implications of allowing mixed use, thereby encouraging more commercial. I don't think that any of the arguments for it hold a strong, I would much rather see a zone that allowed for greater density, residential density, than mixed use. I mean, if you want to make it attractive to a developer, allow them to build more units on a smaller lot than is currently allowed. I just think we're going down the wrong track when we're saying mixed use in residential areas is the way we want to go. I just don't see that it's a price too high to pay, in my opinion.
So, thinking about the lot 630 that brought us all here, if nothing were to change in that way that Scarlett's explaining, 630 would likely not be residential. It would likely stay what it is for the next body shop or become something, well, I guess it can't become anything except a body shop. So I doubt that lot would be able to be converted to residential. So I think it started with that seed, with that idea of how to help that, and then it became more like, as my favorite developer, Bill Webb, said to me, it's a math problem. These plots, and to be able to develop it with density as the goal, there needs to be a little bit more money coming into the developer. I'm not a developer.
I don't know what a developer would say. I just, I caution moving too quickly for a zoning that allowed mixed use. That's all. And I realize that 630 is pretty much a done deal. That is currently operating. If it continues to operate, there's nothing much we can do. What I don't think, we're not going to solve that problem by adding more commercials.
May I interrupt? There's some question of whether this issue's on the agenda.
Pointed out this is not on the agenda, so we should stop. But just in the future, if there are outstanding items like that, even if they're not ready for action, you might want to push them on the agenda so we can have a discussion. And I think it's a productive discussion, but it's not listed, so we should move on.
Okay.
I'll talk about this again when it's on the agenda, I promise.
Understood. And thank you, Marty. And that's on me for inviting folks to say, how's everybody continuing to evolve their thinking on this topic. So back to the regularly scheduled program. Thank you, rule makers, keeping us all honest. And that's all right. That is all right. That is all right. So for this evening, I do have one matter for council action, and that is consideration to approve the Swarthmore College land development plan for their internal campus postal needs. And so we talked about that a little bit last week. And are there any further questions or or topics for discussion pertaining that approval. The county and borough planning commission have both recommended approving this application. And so, hearing none, I'll motion to approve the Swarthmore College Land Development Plan for the internal post office. Thank you, Jared.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you kindly. Okay, so here is what's upcoming this month. By way of closing on my part this evening, this month Planning Commission will meet here in the council room Wednesday, March 19. The next night, the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee will meet virtually via Teams Thursday, March 20th at 5 p.m. Following that, Planning and Zoning Committee will meet in person and via Teams that same night, Thursday, March 20th at 7 p.m. Come one, come all, that's all I've got.
Thank you very much, Scarlett. Public safety, Jan, are you doing that report?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here for Kristen, although I am going to pass the baton several times to Bill. First we have on our agenda here is consideration of resolution 02-2025 finally for the police car purchase.
This is the car that we've discussed, the second car that we need to purchase due to the engine failure of the other car, so we're a year early on this purchase. So we've discussed this, I think, twice now, so now the official resolution is for you to adopt.
All right, is that a motion? That was a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or discussion points on this? All in favor of purchasing a new car for the police? Say aye.
Aye.
And as I understand, this is a hybrid and will make us a all hybrid
Yes,
fleet.
we will be an all hybrid.
Is that what this is? The lease?
Yes.
Okay. Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Next on my agenda is I'd like to move to place the 2019 on the other side, the Dodge Charger up for bid with a reserve of $2,000.
Yes.
$2,000.
Second. No.
Everybody know what we're voting on here? Selling the old car?
This is the taxi cab, right?
Well,
Future
that's where we'll
tax.
probably become.
All in favor of selling the old Dodge Charger on municipal bid, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And then a motion after we discussed last week to allow Mr. Webb to engage surrounding municipalities to help with the cost of an ambulance services. I know we had quite a bit of discussion, and Bill wanted to get our A-OK on this, considering some of the political considerations.
Yes.
Second.
Okay. Bill, do you want to say a few things about this?
Sure, so just to recap, for those who didn't see this last week, as we all know, the ambulance, the ambulance and the EMS in Pennsylvania as a whole was just a mess. Currently, our ambulance is one of 3 in this area. So Springfield has an ambulance, Media has an ambulance, and we have an ambulance. So we provide BLS service, which is basic life support, as well as Springfield provides BLS. ALS service is provided by Media, which is the advanced life support. So this all came out of the conversation regarding the bankruptcy, when I was in a joint meeting with managers and county officials when we were discussing the bankruptcy, and one of the commissioners from Upper Chichester, as well as one of the managers from Salem, and their biggest complaint was that their ambulance was outside of their municipality more than it was in. And when we look at our statistics, it shows that we have that almost same scenario here. So I would like to engage Rutledge Borough and Morton Borough in a conversation about providing some type of financial support for the ambulance. They can tell us thank you but no thank you, and there's nothing that we can do about it. The ambulance can't say, well, you didn't support us financially, we're not going to come there. But the gist of the conversation that I would like to have is, just as we know that the healthcare system is in shambles, well, so is the ambulance. And we cannot rely on Swarthmore to foot this bill for everybody, because there could come a time where we can't afford to fund it. And maybe when your resident picks up the phone, an ambulance isn't available.
So is this the goodness of your heart kind of contribution of money?
So it's, yes, basically, because we can't force it, but it's hey, you know, our ambulance needs your support.
It's a little bit beyond goodness of your heart. You know, as Bill just very eloquently pointed out, he needs to show our surrounding communities that, you know, ambulances are needed, that we're here to support, but everybody needs to chip in if there's going to be the continuation of this ambulance. We can't bear all the cost forever. So I think that's an important message to convey. There's lots of statistics that we can generate, but these initial conversations, I think, help everyone. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, so does anyone else have anything to ask or say about this?
We don't have a hard and fast or specifics that we're bringing to the table. It's just a opening conversation.
It's gonna be whatever your heart desires to provide. I mean, I would like to talk to Conlon about a specific number that we'd like to go for. You know, 20,000 plus is in my mind, but that's, I'm just looking at where we could use that additional revenue.
Since
To offset their costs.
Springfield also provides a significant amount of service to these communities as well, I would imagine.
Correct.
Are they currently charging these communities for service?
They're not, but media is. Media is charging their surrounding municipalities. I think they're charging like 5 different municipalities for their ambulance.
And
Now, they provide ALS service.
are Rutledge and Morton two of those communities that are providing?
I do not believe
So
so.
they're not.
I think it's Nether, Middletown, Rose Valley, Media, and Upper Providence.
Do you think, go ahead. I just had a quick question. Do you think along Marty's lines, on la trade war, like, that if we start doing this, other folks we might get a bill,
Well,
or we might get an ask for, is it just like perpetuating every?
So I think so that's why I would not ask Springfield, because Springfield provides ambulance service to us when our ambulance is not available. So I wouldn't go to them and say, hey, we need some money from you because your ambulance, or our ambulance, but because they provide us that mutual assistance. Whereas these other municipalities, their fire companies don't have an in-house ambulance. So I would, and the county's response during that meeting to that commissioner and that manager was, well, bill the surrounding municipalities. Well, that's easier said than done, because they can get that bill and they don't have to pay it. Just as well as, I mean, the healthcare system as a whole needs to be worked on in Harrisburg. They need to come up with a solution to these problems. Right now, we're trying to find solutions locally. And I think that we're doing a good job. I mean, we're thinking this, us and Nether Providence, which is why I'm not saying that we engage Nether just yet, because we're going through that process with the fire service with them. So the ambulance service will be part of that conversation as we move along. But do I think that this may open up a war? Possibly. But you know what? These other municipalities have been living for free on getting that service for free for all this time. When they're required to provide emergency services, however, emergency services isn't defined.
And to Jane's question in another way, Bill, are there reciprocal services that Swarthmore receives from any of the communities you want to approach about the ambulance services?
So with regards to fire,
Okay.
there's that mutual aid.
Sure.
Same with police.
Sure.
But there is not a mutual aid agreement per se for ambulance service,
Yes.
but the fire service, yes.
Yeah.
So are we getting ALS from media currently?
I believe if they dispatch them here.
And are
Yeah, but
we, hold on.
Springfield,
Are we billing them? I mean, are they billing us for
Yeah.
ALS media?
media is only billing those municipalities that we've discussed.
That's interesting, I wonder why. I mean, I'm not opposed to this, but I'm sure other BLS are gonna, if we can start billing for this lower level, I'm sure the other ones are gonna start saying that's a good way to generate income, and then little Morton and Rutledge are gonna be shelling out money.
Well, we need to find a way to set up a regional, I mean,
Right.
everybody ought to pay. Nobody, I mean, right now you have some municipalities paying, some getting it for free.
Right,
And I think we need to find a way, it's not easy, to divide the county into regions where everybody pays, and that we all pay based on population or
Yeah.
something fair.
Yeah, unfortunately, the way the law's written, the county can't take this system. They can't take the system over, because the county code doesn't authorize them
right.
to do that. And I know, I was speaking with Ray, we were talking about it tonight at dinner, is that, you know, he thinks that Rutledge has been anticipating this.
Okay.
Because they've been wanting to know how many ambulance calls are coming to their town. So he's been providing that data to them. I mean, I agree with Bob. This really needs to become a countywide thing that we look at, not necessarily run by the county government, but through some type of authority. And I know Senator Carney had legislation that was in the Senate. And I think it went through the Senate, but it did not make it out of the House. So and the new calendar year is here, so anything that didn't get passed last year is done.
We should have a liaison to the county council, you know, on our behalf, and maybe, you know, the other municipalities on their behalf. You know, direct, you know, one person who, or maybe it shifts, not to make more work for people, but it seems like we're kind of siloed, and they don't really know what's going on, you know, out in the
Oh,
municipalities.
they know.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly heard, they got a lot of feedback during these meetings about Crozier and Taylor. I mean, and basically Pat O'Donnell was like, you guys have to build those
And
municipalities.
the Crozier bankruptcy, even if it has a good outcome, is going to result in more ambulance issues.
Right, right. Okay, so we're talking about empowering you to open the dialogue and have conversations with Morton and Rutledge, is that it?
At this time, those are the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did we
They're the highest volume users, next to Nether Providence. But we'll deal with Nether through the process.
Do we have a second? Let's give a second.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, and then finally, I know there was much discussion and anticipation of discussion over the parking plan for Park Avenue. In detail, changing it from front end to parallel parking. And as a result of the parking study that Pannoni completed I think it was last month now, we determined that if you did change that parking schematic, you would be at a loss of 11 parking spaces, which in a town where parking is a premium, that was kind of a tough pill to swallow.
Jana, I need to interrupt you. We did table this.
I am going to table it. I just want to kind of explain why, since
I just worry the people that they're not here.
Okay.
We sent out a message saying we're not going to discuss
okay,
it.
so we want to just look at it more holistically.
Got that in there. Good for you.
I don't know if this is the time, but the parking and parklets were linked earlier. And forgive me if I
That was
don't know the
public comment.
protocol. All right.
It's just not fair to the public.
No,
who was
I know.
told it was.
Well, I don't want to
taken
talk
off
about
the
parking,
agenda.
I wanted to go back to the parklets.
If I could just, if you don't mind, I know Virginia had asked that it had come off the agenda. Just so the public's aware, items that are on the agenda can come off before the meeting, but I won't change the meeting agenda on the website, just because I don't want someone to say, oh, they're changing the agenda that's already been published. So we can change these items up to the night of the meeting.
The rationale is there's more work to do, and this will be discussed back in both committees. Are you doing a joint?
Yeah, I think we're
Session.
gonna, I think so.
Okay.
And we still have, yeah, but we do think it's general government / public safety, considering some of the implications.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'd like to go back to having the conversation about having a general government meeting this month.
I'd like to take that offline because of there's a new business with a parklet, and there's another parklet that's kind of in limbo whether they want it or not. So I really don't want to talk about parklets unless I know whether the
Well, no,
businesses want it.
Not here, but to have a general government meeting so we can talk about it.
Again, let's talk, because it's not all of council involved in this, seriously, it's you should just talk to
we
your
can talk.
committee.
Yeah, we can talk after.
Decide.
Oh, I thought we
You're on
had to tell the
committee, right?
public. I thought we had to tell the
Oh, we-
public that we were having.
Okay, yeah, no,
Gotcha, thank you.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Okay, Public Works, Jared.
Evening, everybody. Nothing to report this week, although I will encourage everybody to attend the CRC annual streams cleanup on the 29th at the Little Crumb Creek Park. Our next meeting is going to be next Thursday, March 20th at 9 a.m. in this room.
Is that it?
That's all.
All right, thank you. We are now up to another public comment period.
Only one.
It says it on here.
It's one, there's one. You have the agenda.
Oh, I'm looking at what you emailed out. Okay. I take that back. No public comment session. Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, nothing specific. I just want to kind of pick up on something that Bob alluded to during the ambulance discussion is, and I don't have any information, I don't have any answers, but the closing of Crozier is probably one of the most significant healthcare crises that this county has faced for as long as I can remember. We essentially have 2 hospitals now that are going to be able to take patients either by ambulance or walk-in, Riddle and Sterile Mercy. I mean, that's it. And this is a huge county. So if you can imagine first of all, the amount of time that it's going to take for ambulance service to respond if they're picking up someone here and having to take them to Riddle, and sooner or later Riddle is going to be overwhelmed. They're not going to be able to take everybody in the county. And then you're talking about going almost to Darby to take them to Mercy Fitz. It is going to be a huge issue unless this problem is resolved in one way or another. And right now they're not. There's nothing on the table as far as I'm
There was something today I saw in the news that
There's some scuttlebutt that there might be a deal, but it's not.
they're talking about it in Harrisburg. They're trying to sort out something. So
Well, we will hope, because really it is a major health crisis.
And I forwarded you all this afternoon, I guess they're having some type of news press conference. And they were asking for local officials' support at that press conference.
I think it's important. I'm unfortunately unable to attend, but I think that's important.
thank you, Marty.
That's it.
Borough Manager.
Sure, so as we had discussed last week, I want to pursue the Pennsylvania Small Water and Sewer Grant to address the stormwater issues on Yale and Yale Avenue at the Strathaven condominiums. So basically, I'm seeking authorization from you this evening for us to start preparing that grant application. Then next month, I will actually have the formal resolution that will go along with that application. By granting the authorization, we start the application process and we'll secure the letters that we need. Again, PennDOT is willing to write us a letter of support for this application. We will get a letter from the Strathaven condos, and we will also get letters from Representative O'Mara's office as well as Senator Carter's office.
And as I recall, you were recommending that we include, that we would pay 15% of the project.
That's the minimal. I would actually, we've been a little more successful, we have more skin in the game. So my actual recommendation would probably be the 20 to 25% that we have been doing, but we can take, because that'll be part of the resolution where we tell them how much money we're going to put in the game. So as we get closer to that resolution, I'll have that for you. But at minimum 15%.
Okay. Maybe it's something we can discuss at the finance committee meeting where we are on funding.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor of giving authorization to Bill to start the application process for this small water and sewer grant, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
So just minor thing, what we did receive, I did receive notification that the next round of multimodal funding through the Commonwealth Financing Authority will be opening up with an application deadline of July to apply. Projects that I will be there'll be 2 projects that I want to bring forward for that grant application. It'll be 2 separate applications. One would be to reapply for the pedestrian crossings down by the pool, to do that, to get over to Henderson Field, excuse me. Yes, Henderson Field.
Yeah.
Henderson Field and the pool. So that would be one application. And the next one was, there had been some interest last year to look at the intersection at Michigan and Fairview. The sidewalk literally stops probably 20 feet from Michigan. So what we would like to do is look at applying for that grant to continue on that and give it a pedestrian crossing area. So I'll have more information down the road, but I just wanted to bring you that grant has opened up and we will be looking into that.
Bill, what's the limitations on what we can do with grant funds or the multimodal, so we can be thinking about other things as well?
So the multimodal is basically pedestrian. With the multimodal is what we applied for on Myers. So it's more like pedestrian safety and things like that.
But particularly if it connects to public transit or
Yes.
some other.
Yeah. And that Michigan, we'll also be looking at the Safe Routes to School grant when that opens up. If we don't get we just try and throw all our chips into the pile and see which one we can get.
The Swarthmore Ave pedestrian crossing towards Henderson Field, and I'm like, application number 1 is a strong data point in the public input for the comp plan. So that to me makes sense as the priority to pursue between now and July. The others, I remember you educating us before about Michigan and Fairview, that is a tricky intersection because we're bordering Ridley, and is there even a third?
So no, it's just Ridley.
It's Swarthmore on 1 quadrant and Ridley on 3.
Correct.
Right. So would it be a joint application?
So we would do a joint app. We would, well, as long as Ridley would be willing
Sure.
to give, which I think Ridley's position had always been, yeah, we'll support that, but not with any money.
Okay.
And that would actually probably look even better for a grant application when you have a collaborative effort
Sure.
to make it approved.
I'll just put a third position for folks to think on for the future. Bike lane striping or bollards for a protected bike lane is something that there is a lesser but certainly present public input theme in the comp plan, including down at Crum Creek on Yale Ave. That is the point of concern to a cohort of 5th, 6th, and 7th grade students and their families who would like to be able to bike to the middle school. And they brought forward rather thorough surveying they had done as a class as 5th graders about what's going to stop them from continuing biking, which they had done in town to the elementary school. Why don't you bike to the middle school? And really what it boils down to is there are those nice new, maybe ARPA bike paths on Yale Ave on the NP side, but down there at the creek, there is just a lot of choppiness and bad sight lines for a cyclist. Okay, so as people are nodding. So that's just, I don't know that there's an easy fix to that. If I had a magic wand, I don't know what I would do with it at that site, but it's a desire.
I think it's something we can certainly look at, especially since it's been identified in the comp plan.
Yeah,
Certainly
thank
something we
you.
have with. And I mean, that was great that 5th graders are stepping up. Because I think Sarah was really impressed by that.
Yeah, I have a great PowerPoint that I learned a lot from about that little bridge and intersection if anyone's interested.
And another issue that we've talked about and deferred
is the possibility of some modality, of the 0-100 block of Park Avenue, gets back into parking and parklets and all sorts of other issues. But that block has been looked at by, what's the project? Public realm. Public realm, thank you, Marty. Need somebody younger than me to remember these things, thanks, Marty.
So David, you're saying you would like to see something for bikes or people who are roll?
Right, can it be, should that block be just car lanes, or should it have different ways of being used? And that may address some of the parking and parklet issues all at once. So it's been something that the public realm has raised, having some flexibility there as well.
Thanks. Thank you for doing all that, Bill.
So otherwise, I have nothing else to say.
Thank you, Bill. Mr. Solicitor.
Nothing tonight.
All right, that would conclude our meeting. Motion to adjourn? And a second? Second. All right, thank you, everyone, and good night.